Hello everyone, this is Pooja Lakhani, clinical dietitian at Apollo Hospitals, and we will be discussing nutrition care in liver cirrhosis. The key points that we're going to discuss would be how to optimize nutrition status and make sure we are able to slow down the disease progress, maintain appropriate protein intake, low sodium intake, adjust electrolytes if at all apart from sodium the levels of magnesium or potassium are abnormal, how to maintain that, and how would one be able to maintain and strive for a healthy weight. The basic dietary modifications which will be needed would be inclusion of whole grains, legumes, vegetables, fruits. It is advisable to choose upon whole fruits versus fruit juices and fresh fruits and vegetables compared to frozen vegetables. Anything which is packed or canned is supposed to contain some amount of preservative, and any type of preservative would contain sodium which would exceed the recommended levels in your diet. It is also recommended to choose on lean proteins. One can include fish, beans, legumes, nuts, low-fat dairy, eggs and egg whites in its diet to be able to meet the daily protein requirement. How to calculate one's protein requirements and be able to maximally achieve them, we will be discussing through this presentation. While it is advisable to take adequate calories, especially when one is suffering from liver cirrhosis, it is important to understand that the source of calories comes from healthy carbohydrates and healthier fats. So one would want to limit upon fried food intake, which types of oils one can include, and the types of carbohydrates one can include in diet to meet the energy levels is something we would be discussing. Some amount of fiber intake is also essential. We would be taking next the look at the portion sizes. So it's very important that one knows how much of anything is needed, any food, whether healthy or unhealthy. If the portion size is kept in mind and is taken care of, one may be able to take care of its daily dietary requirements without much expert advice on day-to-day basis. So when we talk of protein, one slightly fisted palm is your one serving of protein. For example, if we talk about dals, so one small katori that fits in your slightly fisted palm would be one serving and give you protein content of somewhere 5 to 6 grams. When you take one egg, that again is one serving of protein and fits in your slightly fisted palm. So goes with the non-vegetarian. So when it is a vegetarian protein, for example legumes and dals, try to take one katori that fits in your slightly fisted palm, and if it is non-vegetarian, one serve is equal to maybe one whole egg or one and a half pieces of chicken or fish. When it comes to serving of vegetables, one fist is one serving. When it comes to carbohydrates, a cupped hand. So protein, the serving of protein is slightly fisted hand, while a cupped hand is the serving of carbohydrates. We will be discussing that how many we need in a day. Initially, it might seem to be a little cumbersome, but once you fix the plate, katori, spoon that you have at your home according to your portion sizes, it's easy to maintain and make sure that you're achieving your nutritional requirements every day. When we talk of fats, one thumb, the upper part of your one thumb is equals to one serving, and how many servings one can take in a day, we'll be taking a look. So when it comes to grains or cereals, as we discussed, one cupped hand is the right right portion for you. Of course, this picture has breads and processed cereals also as an illustration, but when you're suffering with liver cirrhosis, it is strictly recommended to avoid on any processed food. But 4 to 6 such servings of cereals would be able to give you at least 40% of your daily energy requirements. Vegetable servings, 5 or maybe more, can be taken every day. These are various hand size illustrations of what one serving means, and if you take around 4 to 5 servings every day, you will be able to meet your fiber, micronutrients like vitamin and mineral requirement. Fruits are advisable to be taken at least 2 servings per day. Importantly, let's discuss about protein. Now, protein requirement with liver cirrhosis is slightly higher. It is also important to take care of the quality of protein that we take. So if you're taking eggs or non-veg, or milk and milk products, these are all high biological value proteins and are absorbed in the body up to 90 to 95% extent. While if you talk of dals, legumes and other vegetarian protein sources, their biological value is somewhere between 80 to 85%. So slightly lower, but definitely these are important sources for those who are vegetarians. Another important source for a vegetarian is, and which has better biological value, is milk and milk products. So at least 3 to 4 serving of milk and milk based products, of course low fat dairy, should be opted by the ones who are strictly vegetarians so that they are able to meet their protein requirements. When talking about fats, the good fats that one can include in its diet is, of course, from through nuts and oil seeds. So one fistful of nuts and oil seeds, mixed nuts and oil seeds, for example, maybe 4 to 5 pieces of almonds, 2 to 3 halves of walnuts, combined with maybe 4 to 5 raisins, prunes, or even dates can be included. You might also want to include a spoonful of mixed seeds, sunflower, maybe flax seeds, maybe chia seeds. You can keep this mixture together in a jar, and one fistful, ideally in the mid morning or as a late evening snack, can be included in the diet. Talking about unsaturated fats or overall fat in your diet, the other sources importantly is oil, ghee, butter, and other sources of oils might add to the overall fatty liver load, if at all your disease is because of has progressed from fatty liver. So it is advisable to choose upon any vegetable oil. It is ideal that you keep changing the content of your vegetable oil, for example, soybean to sunflower to safflower to rice bran, and then restart the cycle again, rather than choosing upon ghee and butters and other saturated fat sources. A very important key point with liver cirrhosis is to limit the sodium intake, which again becomes a major challenge because that takes away the palatability from food. It's important to understand that there is some amount of salt allowed in the diet. It's not a completely salt restricted diet. There is still some amount of salt that you can take, especially if you do not have ascites. So over here, the amount of salt which is allowed per day is slightly less than 1 teaspoon, but because it is difficult to measure all the time, the handy guide is the first portion of your index finger is the amount of salt you can take throughout the day. It is advisable to preserve the allowed salt for preparing your vegetables and dals, rice, rotis, salads, maybe your curd servings. Everything can be prepared without salt. There is restriction on salt, but there is no restriction on the kind of seasoning or spice you might want to add. One can still prepare its regional food, the kind of food you're used to, but with a lesser salt. Another important thing which one can do is replace your breakfast recipes with some milk based porridges or something that does not require salt in its cooking, and preserve your salt for your lunch and dinner intake. One would definitely want to avoid, big time avoid, the processed foods, canned foods, any sort of farsans, chips, achars, jams. If you've been used to it as your evening or mid-morning snack, that's a big no-no. With this, we come to the end of our small discussion. We wish you all the very best and may you be able to have and follow a healthy diet.